Alrighty, I think we're all set. Oh, this works. So, hi guys, I'm Ray from Two Worlds, and this is going to be our first of the regular Friday cosplay live streams. For today, I'm going to keep it simple, and I had you guys ask me all the questions you might have about cosplay and conventions. So we're going to go through as many of those as we can, while also being able to not completely go off on as many little tangent stories like I tend to do during panels. So this is going to be some great practice for me to not get sidetracked. If you guys do get any questions during, I will have my browser up so I can also look at those, but I did try to write most of them down as they came in. Biggest one that came in first was, do they sell merch, comics, manga? Is there a giant mall? Now, almost every convention is going to have at least an artist alley and hopefully a vendor hall. Normally they're going to be separate rooms, which is really nice because I have gone to a couple of conventions where they put the vendor hall and artist alley all smack in the same place, which I've noticed some artists really get picky about that when somebody's like, oh, well, I saw this booth over here that had this, but they don't have it, so somebody gets ornery on that side, which is awful. The next one is, what is a convention? That can really depend, especially since different conventions mean something different is going to happen. Like, when I went to Colossal Con this past summer, they had everything I saw at normal conventions, the vendor hall, artist alley, panels running, people doing photo shoots, but they also had some really cool other things, like there was wrestling. That I thought was really amazing, especially since many of the wrestlers up there were in different cosplays for different characters. Watching different characters get body slammed across the ring to me was really cool. But then if you go over to other conventions, more like DaishoCon, you're going to see a ton of people over in their arcade that's connected into the Kalahari. Same thing can be with Anime Milwaukee, who has this really big area that they use for scheduled photo shoots. Most of these are also open to the public, which makes it even better. We just tend to notice it gets really claustrophobic, and it's so hard to move around during this time. Next one. What is cos season? This can be different for every cosplayer. I know my personal cos season usually technically starts in November and ends at the end of May, just because in between those 2 months are where many of my conventions start. Then between May and November is usually my work time, where I'll use that to create new costumes, fix up anything that got broke or ripped apart on my old ones. Like right now my Rarity is sitting in there and I need to fix her skirt because half of it got ripped off when somebody stepped on it. These things happen, it's normal. That actually leads into one of the other questions I got asked though, which was, do I have to make my own cosplay, and is it wrong to buy a cosplay? It makes me sad we're still having this debate, even now after so many years of the cosplay community being around. It's okay to make and buy. You don't have to make everything. Like, I didn't make my Naruto cosplay. I just didn't have the time. I wanted to focus more on my Rarity. I also didn't make my C2. Sadly, that one ripped, so that means I'm gonna have to do something with it, which, personally, I don't mind. But if anybody ever tells you you are wrong for buying your costume or you're not a real cosplayer, walk away, tell them that's harassment and it's not right. Get away from that person. If they're messaging you on social media, block their butt. We don't need that kind of negativity here in our community. We already have enough of it from certain people. You don't need to deal with this. End of story. If you're one of those people, get the heck out. We don't want you here. We like kindness in our community. What are con manners? This one's another great one from our last one. My friends keep talking about them, and I don't want to seem dumb for my first con. It's okay. You're absolutely not being dumb. Con manners aren't really a widely known thing. It's kind of just basics that people have slowly been putting out there to try and give people a general guideline of how to act during a convention. For instance, if you notice somebody stopping in the hallway and they're getting ready to take a photo, try not to walk completely in front of them. Try to either wait or go behind. Either one of those things helps. Then there's also when you're taking a selfie with somebody, don't go way up high. That's usually a very unflattering way to get a picture with your favorite cosplayers. Go out about as far this way as you can. Keep it at eye level. Then there's, of course, don't be rude. It's kind of just your basic common sense manners, which I know many people keep saying aren't as common sense anymore. It does stink, but we just got to work at it as a community. If you see somebody being rude, tell them not to. One golden rule is if you like the costume, but you don't like the character, don't mention the second part. For instance, if you see somebody cosplaying as Lucy Hartfilia from Fairy Tail, don't be like, oh my god, I love Fairy Tail, but I think Lucy is a completely useless character. That is so rude, so awful. This person probably loves that character, and all you're doing is crushing on them. That's part of con manners. If it's not nice, don't do it. How to get to a con using public transportation. Do I wear my costume? Do I change at the con or in a bathroom? This one is really different depending on the conventions you go to. I know some of the really big conventions, like over in San Diego, a couple of them up in New York, they actually have some specialized areas for cosplayers to bring in their costumes and change. Anime Milwaukee specifically, we have a coat check, which actually takes pretty big backpacks. The bigger the item is, I think we have a little bit bigger of a fee attached to it, which isn't too bad. Also, hi Wandering Joe and Jimmy Hopkins. Nice to see you guys. But yeah, those conventions will usually have an area stored aside for people who have to change at the con. I have had friends who've told me about their little adventures taking the subway all decked out in their costumes because that's all they could do. They live in those big crowded cities where even owning a car isn't exactly the best area. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, so we're going to call you Uwu for short. But Uwu asked, what is cosplay? Non-American. So, cosplay is when you find, I have a great reference, actually. Pulling it straight from my board of awesome references. So, let's say you have a character you absolutely love, like this one is Katsuki Bakugo in his alternate universe fantasy outfits that they put in at some of the ending credits. A cosplayer is somebody who will make that costume and turn themselves into that character. For instance, one of my kind of more favorite ones to do is Naruto, just because he is very simple, but he's also a character who heavily promotes being positive and believing in who you are to keep going and keep bettering yourself. There is a ton of different cosplays over the world. It doesn't even have to be from anime. For instance, video games. I personally love to do Overwatch characters. I'm planning to do a couple new ones. We might even delve into the Mario universe just because why not? It's really fun. You also have some people like my friend Trina and Cass are actually planning to do Dean and Castiel from Supernatural. It absolutely does not have to be from anime. You can do anything. There's also a separate generation of cosplayers, not generation niche, I guess would be the right word. These are cosplayers who will do their own versions of a character. Like, it's really popular right now on TikTok, where people have created the next generation of characters. For instance, with the Boruto coming out, I've seen tons of people who have made their children and characters that aren't from Boruto, but they're like, oh, I totally think if these two had a kid, this would be their child, so I'm cosplaying as that child. I still think these are really cool. It gives you a really nice take on the entire world. It helps to flesh it out more, which is even better in my opinion. Let's see. How to talk to other con-goers for the socially awkward. I get you. I used to not talk to people. I was very shy, socially inept. I really didn't like going outside my house. I still don't like going outside my house. Talking to other people is awful. But the more and more I kept going to the conventions, the easier it got. The best segue you can use to get into talking to people is kind of going up to them and being like, I like your costume. Even if you don't know the character, that's a perfect way to start a conversation. If you're still a little bit too shy to do that, it is absolutely okay to just give them a small wave and slowly work your way up to that. If you really need to, you can also jump in on panels. Many of them are going to ask questions, which gives you a very good way to kind of start yourself off slowly and be like, oh, I have this question, and then it opens the floor to a lot of debate. Often after that, more people will come up to you and ask you more questions or be like, hey, I really like that question you asked. I wanted to talk to you more about it. It's really nice, really helps out with building your sense of community, and that's what cosplay really needs to be about. Getting a little parched here. I'm glad I thought about bringing some tea for this. I was not aware this was going to be so bad. Where can you actually get good contacts and wigs? Ooh, can you make money with cosplay? You absolutely can. Right now, cosplay is starting to hit that area of professionalism where it's even easier to make money. The most popular way I've been seeing is for people who will open a Patreon and often open a print store. Doing the print store is honestly a little bit harder just because you need those really good, really crisp, high-resolution pictures in order to sell. For that, I've seen people selling them anywhere from $5 up to $15, and some even more if they're the really large-size prints, which is pretty cool. Patreon is more on behind-the-scenes stuff, kind of like those deleted and edited scenes you see at the end of movies. Those are usually left out in our cosplay area, and those are just from now on thrown over into Patreon. So say you have some really cool pictures of your build process, you would upload those to them only. Unless you're like me and you just give it to everybody, but full tutorials go there. It really depends how you want to run it. There are also many popular cosplayers. For instance, Yaya Han actually teamed up with fabric companies and pattern making companies, and she makes a lot of money doing fabric patterns, distributing all of that across the world. It's really cool. I actually do love a lot of her fabric and patterns. They're really nice. The only one so far I've used is her bunny suit. It's so cool. Another way for making money on cosplay would probably be sponsorship deals. For instance, Arda, Maiko Costumes, some of them will actually pay you if you use their costumes a lot in order to advertise for them. For instance, if you have somebody with a really large following on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they can be like, yeah, I got this costume from this company, and it'll actually drive a lot of traffic to them. There's a lot of different ways. Some cosplayers I've heard even make some really good money being an Amazon affiliate, where they pick products on Amazon that they will personally back, and if you click on their links in their tutorials, website, blog, they get money every time you make a purchase, which is nice. You just have to get to that level. Starting off, I do recommend just do small things. Build your audience, build your growth, keep going from there. You don't have to start at the big levels. Nobody's going to become a Nigri overnight. She's been doing this for years, and it's okay to start little. I'm still starting little, and I've been cosplaying for just under 15-ish years. It really depends on what speed you want to go. So then, wigs and contacts. I see the question on contacts pop up all the time. The first thing I always tell them, go to your eye doctor. If you don't have a set prescription, you shouldn't be getting any. Even if you have perfect vision and don't need awesome glasses like the rest of us, lucky, your eyes could have something small or different in their measurements that you're going to need specially handled by a contact company. Per the American regulations, if the company does not ask you for measurements, they're actually going against FDA law, which can lead to a lot of bad problems for your eyes, so I always recommend not going there. Some good ones I've heard of is Pinky Paradise, I think it was called Queen Contacts, something along there. Okay, yeah, that would actually be commissions. A lot of cosplayers who are really good at making things will offer like, hey, I can make you blank costume for however much. Whenever doing that, you want to be very careful, make sure that you're going to be following deadlines. If there's somebody who asks you for 1,000 work-in-progress pictures, a trick I've always done is I will watermark those pictures. Mainly because I've seen a couple of my works up in a stage where it is a judged contest and so much of it has to be made by you or altered. And it's kind of just like, I know that's mine. Did I forget to watermark those? And like this was years ago, back when I didn't know about this. So this was maybe year 10. I started watermarking things just because, oh my god, I don't want this happening. I mean, it's cool you love it this much. Be careful about that because you will sometimes have people use your work against you. But more on the contacts, there are different types too. You have scleras, which will cover your entirety of your eye, which are really hard to get in. They are beautiful though. If you ever see those alien costumes with the blackout eyes, that's usually how they do it. Then you also have the regulars, which are normal prescription and everything. Then there's also toric lenses, which are actually the kind I personally have to use because my eyes have astigmatism. It is quite dangerous for somebody with astigmatism to wear regular lenses. You need toric lenses, otherwise your eyes will be so weirded out by the regular curve instead of having the hunched in end. They will spin continuously, trap oxygen in your eye, and it hurts. I learned this part the hard way. It was awful. They were cute contacts, but this was also before I knew really what I was doing. So that one's kind of a personal no-no. Learn from my mistake. Wigs. I love wigs, as you can tell. I have bought every wig I've ever owned personally from Arda. I've had one wig bought for me by my husband, which was actually bought at DaishoCon. It's not a bad wig. It's not what I would have personally bought, but, you know, thought that counts. I still wear it. I still really enjoy it. Then I had 2 wigs that were thrown at me by sponsors on Amazon. I know some people have really good luck with Amazon. I have not. Those 2 wigs that I was given from the Amazon seller were awful. They were so thin, if you even moved your fingers just a little bit, you saw every single weft and every single bit of your scalp underneath. No bueno, not fun. So, usually for me, Arda, I've heard a lot of amazing things about Epic Cosplay, but I personally can't verify their quality. If you're really having a lot of trouble, you can check on each of those companies. Arda especially has a really good YouTube presence, so they will have their wigs up in videos for you to see as they're styling, teasing, all the great amazing things. These guys are gods when it comes to wigs. Like, I'm still learning and I'm still watching every video quite heavily. I was also asked for a couple of wig videos. Those you're going to have to wait a little while on just because I'm going to try doing some full tutorials on different wig techniques. The ones I know for sure. We're going to leave the fancy stuff for a while until I practice more, because practice makes perfect. How to schedule a photo shoot? I do really like this question just because I had my first professional photo shoot this last DaishoCon. I kind of got lucky. We went on Thursday night just to walk around, pick up our badges early, and I brought my little camera. She was actually sitting over here on her tripod still from filming tutorials earlier, and we figured, why not? We'll take some photos, we'll have some fun, talk with some fellow con-goers, see what we can do. While we were there, up in the bar area, this guy came over, he was like, hey, this looks so cool. I do photography. And it's like, oh, I do not know what I'm doing. Would you tell me? So we got to talking, and then eventually he's like, yeah, if you want, I can help photograph you over the weekend. That man was actually Kwai Vash. I do have him linked in my previous video if you want to go check out his work. I personally love it. I think he's a really great guy. I did feel awful, though, because while he was helping us, he dropped his camera, and it broke a little inside. It wasn't good. I still feel terrible about that. He says it's an excuse for him to get some upgraded gear. But it, you know, one of those things where you just feel awful, even though they're like, no, it's okay. But yeah, I kind of got lucky with that. If, though, like, say, you're going to Anime Milwaukee next month, they do have a group on Facebook where periodically, over time, as the convention gets closer, you'll see a bunch of different photographers posting things that are like photos, their rates, their photography name, and they'll have like, contact me here so we can set up a booking schedule. The sooner you can do it through them, the better. And you're also going to want to check, like our question earlier on making money. If you want to use those photographs for prints, you do need to buy the rights to those photographs. I know every state is different in its laws. Wisconsin in particular is the photographer owns those photos, unless in your contract you buy the rights to them. I've seen a lot of different cosplayers interacting with photographers who will ask them for these rights, and usually you always see the photographer say, yes, it's this much for an hour-long shoot. You get back blank number of edited photos. Some won't even add the extra fee of getting the rest of them. Some will. I remember reading one guy was 30-minute time slot, 2 edited photos, then I think it was $65, and you get the rights to all the other raw footage, and he sends it to you in a giant bundle, which is really good. I've seen hundreds of good reviews for this guy. I'll have to look up his name later, just because I don't have it written down, and I think I should have. Are going on DC or Marvel Con Effects? To be honest, they are biggest company. It really depends. Like, Anime Milwaukee last year, I saw a ton of both Marvel and DC cosplayers, even though it's technically an anime convention. Same happened over at Colossal or BikiniCon, whichever you want to call it. I'd say right now they're about 50-50 for popularity. Both of them are doing really well. They still have amazing characters. Sometimes I have seen arguments like Black Cat versus Catwoman. Most of them stay civil, but I think it's an entertaining argument of just like, oh no, she's a carbon copy. Yep, so like C2E2 down in Chicago, I think it's in May or June. I'd have to check my calendar. That's still 2018. Ignore this calendar. She's not updated yet because I am lazy. But like C2E2 especially has a really large amount of comic book cosplayers. I know Deathstroke Dad. He especially likes to cosplay a lot of different comic book characters. His Deathstroke character in particular is beautiful. If you have time, go check out his builds. He also makes costumes for his 2 little kids, and they're just the cutest. Like, those little ones are adorable. I can't get over it. He's doing good. Just so good. Let's see. I need to start writing down which one of these I've already answered. Okay, badge prices. So, it's usually pretty simple for different conventions. Take, for instance, DaishoCon. I know usually they start putting their badges out. God, I want to say it's between March and May is when you can first buy them, and they're going to be really cheap. But the closer you get to the convention, the more expensive they get until they hit the at-the-door price. This price can be anywhere. I remember Colossal was $60, at the door was $75 for the entire weekend. They do also, many conventions will have single-day badges, some will have 2-day badges. It depends on the con. There's also, I think it's kind of a newer thing just because I'm only noticing it now. It could be old and I might not know. You can let me know in the comments section. But I've seen new photographer badges pop up all over, or press badges. And these are essentially for those photographers, videographers who are there to make a profit during the convention. Their badges are noticeably higher priced, but I can also understand it just because they get extra access to advertising during this convention. Some of them I've also seen get a dedicated space for them to work all of their photography. I think Sketchy Drew kind of falls under this category of being kind of a press badge, but also has been like sponsoring-ish events. I know last year he went to hundreds of conventions, and it was really cool seeing him, especially since he does all of his shoots for free. But in order to buy those, you of course have to do it later once they're updated, which is, I want to say, about a 2-week turnaround with his last editor. He just switched, so I'm waiting to see how this is gonna update and affect it. We'll see what happens. Alright, here's one for Colossal Con with Swimsuit Conventions. Do you have to wear a swimsuit to a convention like this? No, you absolutely do not. Daisho and Colossal Con are both a bit different. Hi, J-Pow! How are you? It's okay if you don't have a question. We're kind of going off of... I asked people a while ago and they gave me a nice list, so that works. So then Daisho and Colossal both have water parks attached to them. Sadly, Daisho is in the winter, so we lose the outside zone, but Colossal, being completely summer and sun and awful sunburns, we can go outside. So a lot of times you will see people in swimsuits out there taking photographs, having fun. I remember last year I saw a big group. I want to say they were Darling in the Franks. I could be wrong. I have the picture saved somewhere that I don't have up right now. But they were doing like a full water video thing, splashing at each other, having fun like that. But then if you went back over to the other side of the location, to the convention center, you of course see everybody in their regular swimsuits with their regular cosplays with some swimsuits wandering around. Just because a con says one thing doesn't mean you have to stick to that thing. Like, some conventions will do themes along with their cosplay contests. I remember one year I went to a convention that had a galactic get-down kind of theme. So if you were alien, galaxy, astronaut-inspired costume, you could enter their contest in this little specific area and you could win a prize there. So it's a lot to think about. There are tons of different conventions all over the world that keep getting bigger as the years go on, which is really nice. We answered that one. Prop rules. Okay. Prop rules are different for every single convention. Some cons have a live steel allowed, but it has to be piece-tied, which is a really fancy way to tie designs that lock your blade into its sheath and it can't be drawn at all. Some cons allow that. Other cons, I know, No Brand, Colossal, Daisho, even Anime Milwaukee are no steel at all. So if you do buy one of these replica prop weapons in, say, the vendor hall, you immediately have to take it outside the con space. It is not allowed in there. Props, it can depend on different props. I know some of them say props can't be wider than you are tall, but that can also get pretty weird if you have somebody who's like 6'6", towering over the entire rest of us little people, swinging around a giant 6'6" prop of like, grrr. That can get scary. You don't know if they can completely control it. So then a lot of conventions will have a security table check for you to bring your props and be like, hey, does this pass? Is this armor approved? You also have to read every individual one. I know we just updated the ones for Anime Milwaukee, and the update we put in there was, I want to say it was 6 or 7 feet tall is the max length for a prop. Then I think the amount from your body out was about 6 inches. And there was a guy who wants to bring his Pyramid Head cosplay, which I love the Silent Hill costumes. They're so creepy and gory and beautiful, at least in my opinion. So I was instantly like, oh my god, I hope he can bring this costume because I really want to see it and I really want to snap a couple pictures because I love pictures and I love seeing my friends in costumes. So right away I clicked down on that comment and I was like, read replies, make sure he can bring it. And one of the security team actually reached right out to him and said, hey, I think your costume should be okay as long as you have good visibility or you have a handler and you're able to keep your props under control. For instance, a lot of furries I see in full fursuits will have a handler just because those big mascot style heads can interrupt your vision a lot, which is something you never really want. If you can't see somebody swish in front of you, usually you're going to tumble right over them. I've done it before. It has hurt really bad. Another thing to think about when you're building your props, though, is will you be able to move around like normal in them? For instance, my harpy wings with my 10-foot wingspans from years ago, I did not think about sitting down anywhere. So that really sucked. I could not sit in even a regular chair like this one. We ended up finding one stool way at the edge of DaishoCon that I could sit in. That was it. So that kind of sucked and made it pretty awful for the weekend because I just couldn't sit down. I couldn't take a breather. So those are big things to worry about with your props and your weapons and anything attached to your body. I've even seen girls having to get cut out of their corsets because they laced them so tight that they couldn't breathe. This isn't good. It's definitely something we need to worry about in the community, sadly. That's usually why I love it when a convention will have on their badges, they'll have a little spot that says, like ailments or diseases. Not really diseases, more of like emergency medical conditions. Like I, for instance, use that all the time just because I have syncope, which is just a fancy word for I faint. It's completely random. It's happened at conventions and I've been fine. But when people don't read or know about that and it's just like, oh, this random person just dropped on the floor or they might be having a seizure, it can really change, which helps out having those little fancy things on the badges. I just realized we went on a tangent and I'm trying to avoid that. Well, we failed once. Let's try again. Eating at a convention. It depends on the con. I know this year, Daisho did something new with the Kalahari, and they actually had a food service area. I thought that was really nice, because Friday, we got up late. Our alarm, we either forgot to set our alarm or it didn't go off. I don't remember, but it didn't happen. So we woke up panicking, scrambling, like, oh god, we need to change. We need to get to the convention. We're going to be late. My panel starts at blank o'clock. What if I don't make it? So we were just panicking, throwing our things on, got into the car, and we took off. We didn't eat breakfast. Finally got done with my panel later on. My stomach was rumbling. I was like, we never ate breakfast, did we? And then as we were walking around, we started to smell something. It turned out to be that little vendor area food, which I think was the best. Having hot food right at the con. They do also not allow you to bring in outside food, which sucks, because while their food was decent compared to items I've seen in the past, like a burger was about $5-6 with a drink and a side. That is amazing, especially considering Daisho happens at the Kalahari in the Wisconsin Dells, which is known for being $20 a burger. Nobody has that much to spend on just a burger, even if it is a good burger. Tell that all the time, but you know, nobody listens. I've also seen like No Brand and Colossal when we were out there. We actually went off the convention property just to kind of drive around, see what we could find for food. We ended up finding this little Italian place. I don't remember its name. Decent food. We also were able to get out and actually see the sights, which I heavily encourage, especially you're going to be at a convention, hours away from you. For instance, every time we go down to Anime Milwaukee or in Milwaukee for Midwinter, which is actually happening this weekend, couldn't make it this year. I'm so sad about that. One fun thing me and my husband usually do is we will get out of the convention center and we will walk around until one of us smells something so irresistible we just have to follow and eat it. And it's a great way. This does lead into another, more safety question, which I was asked, of how do you deal with creeps, stalkers, people harassing you, this kind of thing. I have sadly had to deal with this, and I've learned a lot of different ways how to essentially manage it. If somebody is just creeping on you, giving you some very bad vibes, and a big rule I like to say is don't go alone. Not that you're going to get hurt, but because if you have somebody there to share the experience with, you're going to have even more fun. But if you do get separated, or they are like, yeah, I need to go grab something quick. Do you want to wait right here and I'll be right back? And somebody starts creeping on you, being like, hey, or however it is people flirt these days. I'm kind of awful at it. If somebody starts getting on you like that, a really easy thing to do is look for the closest person that is not the creep. Walk up to them and be like, hey, I'm glad you're back. Then in a hushed voice, just go, help me, this person's being really creepy and won't leave me alone. If you absolutely don't feel comfortable doing that, though, find con security. This is especially big if somebody is harassing you at a convention. Every single convention I've ever been to has rules against this, because we're supposed to be a very kind community. Some people don't get that and act like jerks. If they do that, turn them in. Don't give them oh, well, they did it once, so that's fine. No. One strike, you're out. This is not baseball. We're not going for, oh, they did it 3 times, so now I'm going to take action about it. If they even say one mean thing to you, kick them to the curb. Find that security guy and say, hey, this person won't leave me alone and they're constantly harassing me. If con security doesn't do something, ask them to speak to their con chair. A lot of people don't know this, but if you bring up a con chair, generally security will finally listen and start to be more serious about this. I have had one instance where they did not. So as I walked away and the person tried to actually do the underhand reach, you can actually grab that arm, spin around over the shoulder, and you floor them. I'm actually preparing a panel where I'm teaching some of these technical defense techniques for if somebody tries to harass you at a con. I think the first issue of that is going to be happening at No Brand. I'm hoping the second one will be at Colossal. So if you're at either one of those cons, I'll hopefully be there with this mini cosplay defense course. I have also had people do the whole tripping, when you're passing in the hallway and somebody has a very big elaborate gown on, you step on it and it rips. I've seen that happen a lot. I've had that happen to me. It's never fun. If you notice they've done it on purpose, or your friends notice, hey, that person stepped onto you deliberately, go to con security, go to staff of some kind. If con security won't do something, another idea that just popped into my head, if you're at a hotel or even just a normal convention center, you can find the convention center security and say, hey, I tried talking to con security, they won't do anything, here's what happened. Usually con security, not the con, but the location security will take it much more serious, just because they actually have more licensing. There's more that they can actually do by law to help you. I have had people go on whole tangents about this. I've had people ask me about, oh, well, what about the people who are making threats to you? Here's a fun thing. American law, telling people to die, kill themselves, stuff like that, you can get fined $2,000. If the person actually does it, you can go to jail for assisted homicide. I tell that to a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it was just a joke. It's not a joke, especially if they do that. Harassing, bullying, all forms of this are not okay. And sadly, it's something we just need to keep pushing. Which reminds me, actually, I don't know if this card will load, but I think the link is down in the description of my video. Yes, it should be. I'm using this live to help out a cause that I personally support, which is Stomp Out Bullying. If you guys want to and you have anything to spare, you can donate to this cause. They help going to schools all over the states and tell stories about people who have been bullied, people who have lost almost everything because of bullies. We want to stop that. We're supposed to be kind people, and if we can, spread this kindness. Which is why I put that specific charity in there, because they mean a lot to me. They've helped me out personally, and they're awesome people. So if you can give even like a quarter, that helps out a ton. Alright, I think we might have actually ran out of our questions. I don't see one we haven't answered yet. Oh wait, right, there's those ones. Most of these other ones are on things that I actually planned for tutorials later on, like the wig questions. A couple of sewing questions even popped in, which I'm not gonna explain those. I'm gonna show you those in different tutorials as they come out. I was also asked what my next con is, which is, it's slightly tentative, but it should be Anime Milwaukee next month. So I have a month and 6 days to finish a full costume, which is actually this guy, because, yeah, I love him. I'm torturing myself because I've been spending so many late nights on this. Oh, that reminds me of another one. I forgot to write that one down. Con Crunch, and what is it? For me personally, Con Crunch hits when you are 2 weeks from a convention. And it depends on the person. I've seen people get 3 full sets of armor done in those 2 weeks. I've seen some people get maybe 2 parts of a costume done in those 2 weeks. It really depends. Something I like to say to people is, don't plan for a ball gown if you never made a shirt. Because if you want to do something like that, you're going to need time. You can't crack that out in 2 weeks. Not unless you have sufficient knowledge and skills behind it. So usually I try to plan, like, for DaishoCon, I started in June. And I had at least 1 piece done every month until we got to November. For that one, which was a rarity, it was rarity, but I finished for once a week before the con. That made me feel great, but then of course the ideas of like, I have this in my closet, all I need to do is this. And then I was back to making something again, because we torture ourselves by procrastinating and making new ideas at the last second. One rule I like to say about Con Crunch is, if it's taking away from your fun of cosplaying, don't do it. For instance, if you are working yourself to the bone every night before a convention, it hits the day of the convention, you're driving there, you have your sewing machine in the back to finish a costume, stop. You're overworking yourself. More than likely you're feeling incredibly stressed and awful, which is not something we want. We want you to feel good and happy and proud of everything you're wearing. If your machine is back there because, oh, I remember last year I had a malfunction, and if I would have only had my machine, I would have been able to sew that right back up. Bringing your machine for that reason is completely okay. I've met tons of people who actually walk around with the handheld sewing machines. They're cool, definitely not for me, but most of them are actually doing the whole cosplay repair. I remember once seeing a question on those guys too. Technically not a tangent because this is a question I've seen. Yay, we're not losing track for once. Ish, sort of. I'm trying. I promise. But many of these people are actually bringing their own supplies from home to help you fix your costume if there's a malfunction. For instance, I've only ever been in, if I include next month at Anime Milwaukee, I've only participated in 2 competitions in my life. The other one was at Daisho, 2016. I don't remember anymore. I don't usually do competitions. I'm going to try getting more into them. But while we were there, I started to notice as I was walking around, I was hearing a wooden clanking noise. At first, when I started hearing it, I didn't think much of it. We had already done our judging slot. We were now ready to just walk around, and it was getting close to the time where we had to be in the green room to get ready to go up on stage. So finally, it was like, okay, can somebody bend over and check what that clanking noise is? So, of course, my friend Trina hops down, and she's inspecting the wings, taking a look at the structure, and finally she sees, oh, we lost a bolt somewhere. Now, already I had been losing feathers, so we were actually playing a technical game with people. Whenever somebody brought us a feather, we gave them a treat. Most of it was just little candy pieces. If they weren't able to have candy, like, say, they had diabetes, I did have some technical natural snacks on me that I kind of gave them. Because, I mean, thank you for bringing me back my feathers. I will need them so I can replace them later and hot glue them back in. Because those feathers are expensive. I think I put $400 of feathers in there. But I started to panic. And finally I see a whole bunch of group around this one guy. And this was shortly after the first Wreck-It Ralph movie came out. So I kind of I'm leaning over and I'm looking and I see like, oh, he's dressed as Fixit Felix. And I don't know why it took me as long as it did to realize, oh, he's actually Fixit Felix. He was here with a giant case of equipment to replace anything that broke. When I finally realized this, and I was like, I felt so dumb. So we skittered on over to him, and we were like, do you have a bolt about long enough for this? As I kind of just like bent sideways so that my wings slid up in midair. He just kind of stood there staring at it like, I might. Pulled out this big drawer, all the hardware bits, started going through it. He sadly didn't have the size bolt that we lost, which is completely okay. They were custom ordered bolts at the time, so that made a lot of sense. But then he's like, but hold on. Pulls out duct tape. Duct tape fixes everything. And that kind of killed it for us, because originally I had set up those wings so that if I pulled the strings, they went whoop, and they opened and looked gorgeous, and that was originally the plan for when we were on stage. But because it broke, I could not go whoop and raise the wings during the competition, which made me very sad. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, this stuff happens. I've learned from it. I'm remaking my wings to be better with more feathers because I am nuts. And I like to torture myself with super glue and gluing my fingers to feathers and fabric. It's gonna look awesome though. It's gotta be worth it. All this work has to make it worth it. Can anyone think of any more questions at the moment? Otherwise, I think we might have found a pretty good place to end it off. We're almost at 8 anyway. I mean, I'm going to stay up for another 3 hours working on something, but I mean, why not? Oh, just in case somebody's wondering, I do have it up over here, that way I can read the chat, because my tablet doesn't always like to cooperate with me. Gonna give it a couple, because I know this thing is a little bit laggy, which sucks. It takes its sweet time talking to us. Alright, I guess we are good. Our next video comes out Well, I'm going to be uploading a new video tomorrow, but then after that I'm going to be starting on a set schedule, which is going to be every other Wednesday I upload a video, and every Friday we're going to be doing a live stream, which will range from us working on costumes together all the way to talking like this. I was asked a couple of for story times, like my favorite cosplay moment or my favorite blank moment, but I might save those for their own videos down the road after I do more tutorials and that kind of thing. We'll see. I've also been asked if I can do game stuff. We'll figure it out as we go, but right now we're mostly going to focus on our costumes. But thank you very much, you guys, for hanging around, sitting, and talking with me. It's always wonderful getting to talk to people. If you guys don't know each other, get to know each other in the chat too. Reach out. It's always good to make more friends in the cosplay community. Now, as we should all be saying, cosplay is for everyone, everybody, and every tone. I'll see you guys later. Bye!